All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, The Bella Gamer, with my co-host Blue Boy.
Hello.
And it's going to be, I think, a really interesting year for indie tabletop, especially indie tabletop content creators like myself. Also, again, my camera's borked. I'll do that. It's a little darker, but it works a little bit better.
Yeah, it looks like the sun is right outside your window.
I mean, the sun's kind of shining some light, but I can't adjust my camera. I don't know what it is, but like something changed where now I can't adjust my camera with my controller anymore, and it gets really annoying.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of boomer moments lately, like so many where I'm just getting fed up with newer and newer tech, where it feels like we're taking like 3 steps back, 1 step forward. In that regard, I can't stand it, because I can't stand the idea I own a piece of technology, and then suddenly, outside of my control, where it's like, meh, we'll take away your ability to mess with this, or we'll change it for you. We know it's better. No, you don't. Let me do it. Or like, here's one that got me annoyed, very annoyed. The Witcher 3 is rumored to have a DLC coming out, like apparently. New expansion. I am like half sure it's real. It's like one of those could be real, could be fake. But I'm like, you know what? I wasn't able to beat The Witcher 3 because I had a game-breaking bug where I couldn't trigger the final quest. Maybe I should play it again, because I also never did like the DLC, like the vampire one.
Right.
And apparently they put out a next-gen update recently. And it's really cool. But I open up the game and it's like, it looks like dog shit. It's like everything is blurry. Everything is like washed out colors. I'm like, what's going on? And it is kudos to them for having like super high res textures and models, and it runs like butter at like ultra settings. It's real nice. On the other hand, you have to do so much fiddling with newer games now, where you're like, I have to make sure the anti-aliasing is right. I have to make sure this like upscaling is at a correct scale. You have to do so much wiggle room to have your game look fine. And like, that's the problem with Unreal games. Unreal Engine games, I don't know. The new Unreal Engine, I have yet to find a game that looks good. Expedition 33, I don't know how they did it, because it runs good and looks good. And then I play like these other Unreal Engine 5 games, and it's a blurry, like shitty mess that's artifacting constantly. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I very much detest the over like digitalization of just everything. Like, and don't get me wrong, I don't think everything needs to be analog either. It's more of like just before stream, my mic setup was all messed up because this is like a programmable mic, and every time Windows does a update, it messes everything up. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense, but I did, and so I just had to factory reset and then redo my settings, and boom, now everything is good. So it's like, why? And then this camera thing, like one day it went from like, oh yeah, let me just adjust the exposure on my little panel over here, that'll fix it like live, to nope, that doesn't work anymore. And what's really unfortunate, I actually fixed it before stream today. I was actually ahead of the game. I was like, all right, yeah, there's that glare, that's fine, let me just go ahead and adjust the exposure, and I got it perfect, and I was like, okay, I'm happy with this. And then when I started Streamlabs, it just didn't work, and it's like, I remember back in the day when you used to have the Logi Capture program, and it was just a simple little box that let you adjust the exposure and everything, and it always worked. Never had a problem with it, not once. Now it just seems like the more updated some types of things are, the more terrible they become. So
that has been the fun bit of Also with the fact that like the last like I want to say like 10 or so Windows updates have all had like major vulnerability risks or major like, hey, don't install this right now. There's a chance it could really like fuck up your hardware. Um, right after they said, hey, by the way, half of our code is written by AI, and like
Right.
suddenly they all started breaking. It's like I can tell. Uh, I hate it because like you get a really good example of someone doing it properly, or like you have a nice open source system, something that is like just made and like a thing means what it means, and then there's the programs that are like, no 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 no, we'll do it for you. Also, every update we're going to change how things work and like what you're allowed to do, just
Yeah.
willy nilly. Because Adobe does it constantly. Adobe
Yeah.
just changes sometimes of like what you're able to do with the software. Um, yeah, the exposure thing. I trust a camera that has a physical like wheel around the lens to adjust this exposure because it can't. The software can't fuck with that. That's like directly with the camera, changing how big the hole is. Uh, oh my god, everything has an app. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But then, like, a really fun example actually recently. Have you paid attention to Hightail at all?
Yes. Yes. We were just talking about it actually last stream. Well,
Oh, that's fun.
during anima, yeah.
I got it because I was a
Yeah.
Minecraft kid growing up. I told stories of Herobrine on the playground, shit like that. Hightail is
This
like
aged me so dramatically there. I was in
I know,
college
right?
when Minecraft came out.
I remember playing it for the first time on my friend's Mac like laptop. That you had to be careful of because it would literally burn your leg if you used it
Yeah.
for too long. On like the beta version of Minecraft. Um, but yeah, like I got bored with it pretty quickly because it was just I don't know. It's just a game where I get kind of bored with that type of sandbox.
Sure.
Then Hytale is like, hey, let's make combat good. Let's make exploration good. Let's make like movement fun. I had a boss fight in a Minecraft type game, like an actual boss fight
Yeah.
with abilities and me like dodging and weaving. I was like, holy fuck, the building feels better. And it's like the biggest flaw I can say about the game is, man, I can see that it's in early access.
Yeah.
But then the dev right now is on Twitter being like, hey, $20,000 bounty for anyone that finds major security vulnerabilities with the online. And also is asking after the first day, hey guys, can you like, I'm compiling a list of all the things we need to fix first. Can you help me out? Like, I want to make sure it feels as good as possible. Like, legend. He's already saying, yeah, these are some flaws I see with the early access build. I want to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been interested because honestly, like I like Minecraft. I've spent a good amount of time just like playing around. I haven't played anything in the newer era of Minecraft, like ever since Mojang was sold to whatever studio is
Microsoft.
working on them now.
They were sold to Microsoft.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I haven't really touched it so much. Not that I think it's bad. My wife plays from time to time, and it looks pretty fun. They just now have a bunch of mods that you can just get like in game without too much hassle.
Oh, that is good.
But it's just something that like it's a fun game. And if Hytale is just better Minecraft, just Minecraft 2 essentially, that just sounds like a good game. So,
Yeah,
you know.
like I'll say this, like I had a period where I was like, I really want to like experience some fun Minecraft stuff. Like I was hankering for that like very open survival or like exploration type game. I landed on Tears of the Kingdom, but like I was hunting for mod packs for Skyrim or for Minecraft. I went through every single like big fantasy one because I was like, I want a fantasy thing that makes exploration fun. I want like a bit of magic. I want to have a big fantasy RPG like I can tell my own story type beat.
Mm-hmm.
None of them felt good. They either ran bad, like because of how much shit they were just throwing at Minecraft. So then it's like my block distance had to be like 8 to run. Did a bunch of that. And I was like, exploration feels kind of boring. I hate like the ones where they're like, hey, you have 20 different crafting tables, which this game kind of has a little bit. And then I play Hytale and I'm like, this is it. I found it because a better way to describe it is imagine well, fantasy with Minecraft, but the game flows a bit more like Valheim.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best way I can describe it, because it's very biome and like region centered, where there's like, you start in the first biome in like a region, and then there's just scaling regions that are like more difficult with better loot. And they're apparently at some point going to add like story stuff. So like this world you generate, and they also apparently just updated the world generator, because they're like, let's make the terrain cooler. But they're gonna add like, you can discover lore about the world you're in, kind of thing. And I've already found a bunch of really dope structures that are like incomplete. They have work in progress signs on anything where it's like, hey, here's a hint of what's coming later, and it's very sick.
Yeah, honestly, like as soon as it gets a little bit further along the way, I might be interested in hopping into it, because like I love Valheim. In fact, I think this year it's supposed to be coming out with its 1.0, which is going to be huge.
Ooh.
Also Power World, which is also going to be really fun, because I really like Power World too. But it's just one of those kind of games where it's like, unlike Path of Exile 2, which I feel like has had some of the best early access of any gaming I've really done. These games just feel like they're fun now, and you can do a fair amount in them. But if you wait, you're going to have an overall more fun time, just because you're not going to play all the fun parts, essentially, before the game fully comes out.
Yeah, like, Path of Exile is a great time of, it was really fun, and then it's only up from here. Valheim's great. I mean, I have like I have 100 hours in it for a reason. Like, I've been a long time hater of like a lot of survival games, just because I think, much like horror, a lot of survival games add realism, and their interpretation of realism is tedium, where it's just annoying constantly. But then like Valheim's great for that reason. Palworld's fun. Hytale's fun for that reason too. Like, you can do some crazy shit, and it's also not constantly being like, hey, make sure you eat, make sure you do this. The only thing food does is like give you stacking buffs, like energy and health regen stuff, and extra other side things. So it's a method to get your health back and to buff yourself before a fight.
Yeah.
But like, I will say, yeah, it is, the game right now is just kind of shallow. It feels like, in that way of, I have mods in Minecraft that are very good. I perfectly have my mod list, but in like a month probably, because at the speed that they're churning some shit out, I think it's going to be way better. They're already planning like a lot of crazy shit. I want to say you can make a dedicated server for free in this. But like, it's so impressive. And the story behind it's so impressive too. Like, major respect to the dev for being like, I want to fix this because Riot Games fucked the thing I made and sold to them. He has no economic incentive to do this. He's like completely fine, set for the rest of his life to spend it with his wife and kids. And he's pairing that alongside, I do want to make sure that this thing I made can be experienced in the future and like is playable. He said he's already committed to like 10 years of development for this.
That's crazy, but you know, I mean, for what effectively could be Minecraft 2, he might just be like go for a bigger bag, you know, like just being like, hey, I made better Minecraft, Microsoft, dangle.
Like, it definitely reads like that situation of he's just like, I'm doing this for no money, or like, I don't care if I make the money, but if I also make fucking bank in the process, because it like completely steamrolled early access player rate. Like, it was one of the highest played early access games yesterday.
Yeah.
It was insane, and they were all like, holy fuck, guys.
Which is insane, because like, I did see some videos on YouTube about it, but overall most of like general content creators weren't talking about it, and then everyone was playing it. So it is one of those interesting games that just like, ever since it's been like announced that it was going to come out in its early access, no one big besides maybe Chippy Gaming, but you know, that's a very specific genre, was talking about it, and then suddenly, like, for day one, I see Moist Critical playing Hytale and a bunch of people playing Hytale. So
Yeah, the only time I saw it was on Twitter. I mean, granted, I also don't watch like people that just play new games, and I don't watch that as much anymore. Like I kept seeing it on Twitter, and a lot of it was like peak Twitter thing of wait, so this is just Minecraft but modded? What's the point of playing it? It's like, well, you gotta actually, look at it instead of just being like, Minecraft. But then like everyone was just talking really good about it. I'm like, you know what? Let me look at this. Oh god, it's it's exactly what I've wanted out of this type of game for so long.
mm-hmm.
It would be sick. It would be so sick if like they're gonna add a bunch more stuff. Like they're gonna have, I think, a bunch of different game modes. I think they're making a dedicated like story mode if you want to go through that, because they're like, they said the three things like pillars are trying to hit is make something for the RPG style players so you can like have that RPG experience. Make something for like you want to set up a bunch of mini games and host servers with like a bunch of alternate game modes, and then creative tools so you can make like something insane for creative mode.
Yeah.
For like adventure maps and shit. I played the fuck out of adventure maps as a kid, so like that's fun.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I just want to let this one cook a little bit more before I do anything. And plus, I'm a Steam head, so I'll probably just wait till it gets on Steam.
Yeah, it might just stick with its own dedicated launcher, because that's I like that part. I like that it has its own launcher for it, which is like some classic Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm used to that aspect, but like one of the reasons I think it's going to be keeping to having its own launcher, unless they've said they're going to put it on Steam, is because one of the things they're doing is they wanted to make the game as easily to mod as possible, and also as easy to make mods for the game. And apparently the modders are already going in crazy. They're like foaming at the mouth with how nice everything is. But one of the things they added was every world you make can have its own mod list. So like nothing will like, you don't have any conflicting issues. Or like, you changed some mods and now I can't play this thing. No, it is like dedicated mod list for each world you make, which is every single aspect of this game is like quality of life. Like I've wanted the game for so long.
Yeah, like I said, this is better Minecraft. So it's, again, I'm going to be super hyped when they just get a little bit more developed so that you can play the game for like 100 hours and feel good.
Oh. Yeah, completely. I agree.
No, we're talking. We just usually just chat about things, Devious, until people get here. It's a podcast. You think we're going to talk about one subject the whole time?
We also get tangented, really, which also that's normal for live stream podcasts.
Most podcasts are like that,
yeah.
Though, funny enough, I was actually just about to cut, because usually I wait about like 20 minutes or so. 20-25 minutes before we start. So speaking on that, TTRPGs, I do think genuinely this year is going to be really good for indie tabletop, because I feel like generally speaking people are going to be a lot more interested in indie games, considering the great division of D&D players that was started last year by Dagger Heart. And I keep seeing draw steal, honestly. People like, it's not a lot of people, but like it's subsection of tabletop players keeps growing more and more, it feels like. And it's so sad that this great shattering of the D&D player base, Pathfinder is still just like barely mentioned by a lot of people.
Yeah, because like Pathfinder has its like specific reputation. And like the reputation that's been built up of that very complicated thing, or a lot of people. I imagine there's also a decent subsect of people that don't even know that a second edition Pathfinder is like a thing. If there's like, oh yeah, it's Pathfinder, and then just don't look into anything further.
But that's not quite true, just because there's been some very popular content creators who've made Pathfinder 2e content. In fact, some of the biggest ones like Mr. Rex, which that was a terrible video, Puff and Forest, and XP to level 3. all have made content in XP level 3. Jacob still talks about Pathfinder like on occasion because he just really likes the game.
Yeah, I'm only saying it in the route of like my experience with like playing with very casual heads who don't engage with. Thankfully, they don't engage with those bad videos. But it's because I also was in that camp. Don't get me wrong. I was in the camp early of like there's a set Pathfinder 2, where it's kind of lumped in. But if it's getting that less and less, sick, because like I think having more exposure to games is better. Even if it's like draw steal, like I don't fully fuck with draw steal. Like,
Yeah.
I think it looks interesting. I don't see myself having fun with it for a long period of time. I think it'd be a fun one shot, like just to try it out and like fuck around.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that other people are happy, and that's a great thing to feel. Where it's like, hell yeah, we got options now, and options that feel like it's worthwhile to like go through.
Yeah. And what I think really the major thing is, I think one of the major influences is that there are a fair number of like prominent D&D tubers who are more on the rules light kind of end of things. And I think that has had a really big influence overall. There's also like the Shadow Dark upset that has been going on for the last couple of years now, where more and more every year people are talking about Shadow Dark more and more. It's just it's interesting because it feels like the tabletop viewer base is starting to like diversify and expand from just everyone plays D&D and then only the really like niche people play their particular games.
Yeah, it is like I'm happy that more and more it really seems like it is normal for people who are fans of tabletop games to get into other tabletop games. Because it
Yeah.
used to really feel like it was everyone played 5th edition, but like there were people who collected books. They weren't like collecting the games. It was like I like collecting books. Fair enough. That's fun. I do that too. But more and more just being like, yeah, there's like some really fun alternate things, and the view of running 5th edition for everything is dropping. I think partially because of it becoming a big meme of like 5th edition players will do everything in 5th edition became a bit of an online joke, but also I can see just general fatigue. Just being like, this game's like there's nothing really new, nothing crazy being added. And then the online people who are tapped into that are like, and the OGL, fuck that. D&D 2024 is a weird shit show of a release. It's like a bunch of different building up of factors where people are just like, maybe I try something different.
Yeah, I mean, that's just gonna happen, right? Like, eventually, the games that people like, they're gonna get tired of it after so many years. And like, I think with tabletop, it's something that's a little bit slower than video games, because it's a lot harder to dump 1,000 hours into a TTRPG than it is to do any other kind of game. So, you know, the fatigue point, I think, is just like set way out there. When so many people are struggling just to get into games, that like they're not thinking, oh, let me just get into another game that I'm never gonna play. So they're just still kind of waiting on that one game that they managed to get into like once a month,
or waiting for their multi-year campaign to end.
There's that too, yeah. And so it's fascinating to see the TTRPG scene move, because it moves kind of like molasses. It's very slow, but there's definite change that occurs like from year to year. And to be fair, it's very hard to really get a pulse on the TTRPG scene because a lot of it is happening like in homes or at stores, and there's not really that big of a discourse around it because, well, most of what people do online anyway are just be fans of things like Critical Role or Legends of Evantris or whatever. And so you still get people, I mean, like, as a indie content creator, I see a bunch of people who are like very deep in the hobby talking about this game or that game, and it's interesting to see the niche scene really like move as well, because it moves a lot more fluid like normal video games does. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
oh hey, there's this game that came out, let's try it, and they ended up trying it within a couple months of a game coming out, and like, oh yeah, this game was a lot of fun, I really liked it. But like what affects tabletop, I think, more overall is just like the general perceptions of it. And with some of the biggest content creators like talking a lot about Daggerheart and even some Draw Steel or even some other games, it's giving people reason to look for other TTRPGs, which I think that in itself is making people a lot more generally diversified and willing to look into things. And then we have big games that come out like Daggerheart or Draw Steel or the Cosmere RPG. And by the end of this year, we should be seeing Mistborn, which I'm so excited for, because honestly, Mistborn is probably the better setting overall for a Cosmere TTRPG.
I agree, and I'm super curious how it's going to be run. The old specifically because in reading like the Mistborn era 2, and them being like, yeah, it's a lot more of like a political intrigue game. I'm like, really? That's the route? I would have expected you go like adventurer, like traveling the wastes looking for relics, like that kind of vibe. Or essentially what those books are, which is like an Indiana Jones story. It is.
They're
it
not
is
really an
that
Indiana
type of
Jones
high stake.
story, though. It's
High stake action, but then like you got the fun characters all bouncing with each other.
sure.
It's got like that adventure and action mix. That's just very fun.
I mean, it's like a.
There's just no archaeology tied to it.
Yeah, there's no archaeology tied to it, and they don't really go to like they go to one ruin in all the books, essentially.
Yeah.
One secret place. I think it's just like a investigation slash action fantasy kind of story. You know,
But
like
yeah.
I wouldn't call it noir, but I would
No.
say like it's a mystery slash action fantasy. There we go. That's the genre. Because like
I slap the Indiana Jones label on it only as like the visualization I have in listening to the books, where I'm like I'm the way I picture audiobooks is I picture filming it, and a lot of those like big action scenes where it's like giant hordes of enemies, one or two guys really scrambling to fight. I'm like, you would film this like a nice, really good long Indiana Jones action scene, like Indiana Jones 3 on the tank. Like that whole like sequence feels in similar to Mistborn Era 2. The only difference is Indy isn't like flying around. And,
yeah,
like,
I don't know. I
going
would say it
flying
has a
down
much
stairs.
more higher like level of action, more of a dynamic level of action. So it feels more like almost like a John Wick series, honestly.
PG-13 John Wick.
Yeah, pretty
Just because
much.
it's Sanderson. But like that is gonna be fun. Like I'm hyped for that because it's a very fun tone. I'm also happy that you're gonna side with Scadrial in the upcoming events. As it sounds. I'm fully on Scadrial's side. I think Harmony is he knows what's up. He knows what's good.
See, the hard part about Scadrial's side is it's mostly the oh, fuck, those people with the masks.
Oh yeah. The I want to say it starts with an R.
No, it's like Swamish. One second. I've been
Listen.
dropping names left and right.
Let's see. What's that? There are so Malwish. That's
Malwish.
It, Malwish.
There it is.
I had to dig through and read. There was just a big link of like I had to find the character that you first meet that's Malwish, fucking Alec, and
Yeah.
then be like, all right, what is he? And it takes a while to say he's Malwish.
I mean, I just
Listen,
went through Emberdark Isles, and like the
that
Malwish
too.
are huge in that part. So it's
I
mostly Malwish, which I don't know how I feel about, generally speaking.
that you know, uh, Rosharn propaganda. That's what I'll say. I don't. It can't be all bad because like Harmony, I trust his vision. And maybe we're just getting a bad side of them, and the Malwish aren't a horribly expansionist colonial empire that's just trying to exploit everything. And like maybe we just don't see the vision.
Mm-hmm. Though, you know what's crazy? Threnody is a huge player in the future as well, and we know
It's crazy.
next to nothing about most of Threnody. So
we know like how Threnody got to the way it is.
yeah, I mean, we
Like-
know they're essentially like Warhammer 40k Empire, only rather than servitors, they use shades.
Yeah, they use like ghost. It's what was the term for it? The cognitive shadow. They're like kind
Yeah.
of that step. Because man, I mean, yeah, they don't have a shard to be like, hey, what's up, guys? Let's pass on to the next life. And instead, it's just like, all right, you're a ghost now. Don't break my rules.
So it's very interesting. I don't know exactly. I don't think Sanderson's really making a good side in the upcoming conflict. I think the
No.
good side is going to be, like Hoyd's group or
Like whoever Hoyd's backing, and it's gonna be like a little rebellion. Like I like the theory though that Harmony is like maybe his plan is to get more shards fused with him. I think I don't know if I came up with that theory based on some other things, but it was with the light callers.
right.
Well, I watched some of their videos. Largely because they were saying that Harmony's evil and he's actually Discord in disguise, which that'd be impossible.
Right.
Impossible that my boy is evil. I like that theory though, that the concept of Harmony would make the most sense to be like, maybe I try to remake Ad Nauseam in some way.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it would explain the rapid expansion. Like, really trying to get a foothold in every single planet. That sounds like a route to try to get their shards. Although, I think the real battle, which is going to be sick as hell in Stormlight Act 2, of mass-produced magic versus singular, very powerful people.
Yeah.
That seems to be the route they're going, is like, hey, what's up? I can go buy magic at the store. Uh-oh, that guy's burning the atmosphere with Division. The sheer aura difference between a single Night Radiant versus an entire starship of Scadrians.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to know because Rosharans have their own mass-produced magic as well with their Fabrials. So.
Oh yeah, like they have that aspect. It's just the it seems like that's the route it's gonna go with, of like, we have the normal soldiers, we have whatever Fabrial tech they come up with in the future, and then the fact that like, oh yeah, space travel for like a Night Radiant, apparently they can just do it solo. They can just they
Yeah.
can just do that, and you can have a fucking shard gun, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, they were also in Mistborn. We're tangenting. One second. I was about to get deeper than that needed to be. So yeah, the Mistborn TTRPG, I think, especially for Cosmere, is going to be very interesting. I think it's better overall speaking because the powers are they're not as crazy, but they're more diverse and more like play style diverse than I feel like the Surges tended to be. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what they're going to do, and especially with the mental elemency with some of those. I'm excited to see what they do with some of those rules for like social encounters and stuff like that. Like, you know, for brass and yeah, brass and bronze. Yeah.
Probably. I think that's what it is. I'm remembering the board game of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that aspect, and also the aspect that we're getting ferrochemical shit. Like
Yeah.
the specific aspect of being having allomancy versus ferrochemy, or having both. It makes a situation where you can make a build, I think, a lot stronger.
Yeah.
Not like physically stronger, but I can make a character that's very different power wise. And it also depends how much they're going to go into the resonance shit for these powers. Because that's a lot of combinations. That's a lot.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it depends, because it could be just what their compounding effect does. That could just be an augmentation to like one power or another. But
like, if they don't have compounding, I'll be sad, because like Niles is such a sick ass character because his power is spooky. His power of just like, you can't fucking kill me.
Yeah.
I have gold upon gold. And I think that was there's like another character who's doing that. But like there's an element of those like bubbles that Wax can make. That's the resonance between his two abilities. And then there's like those specific tiny minor things. And I'm curious if they're going to have that, or if they're just going to have a table of like what happens if you have the same element for both your shits. I'm curious how crazy they're going to go. If we don't get that, I will understand. I will understand if we don't have the resonance stuff, only because that's so many combinations to work on. If we have the compounding stuff, that makes more sense. That's like an easy like table you can create that just says like, and you get this like a minor bonus.
I don't know. I really don't think we're going to see really much of resonance or compounding, just because I feel like Brandon is going to want to use a lot of that for future Mistborn books.
Only reason I disagree with compounding is because we've seen it. Like, and also, I mean, the Ars Magicas like do spoil what the elements do. It's like you can see
not
one,
the compounding.
I mean, because compounding in like the first moment shows up in book 1 of Act 2.
Yeah,
and like,
I'm aware of one of the 16 metals compounds.
Yeah, we haven't had a big list of like what all the compounds do. I think it would be very sick if we got that.
It would be good. I agree, but I don't think so, because I think Brandon wants to pop it as like fun, like, oh, what's this, you know, in the book, you know, in any of the books. So
it would be sick. I would love if like in any way it shows up, because I think it is really cool whenever we get the tiny bits of oh yeah, that's how like investiture as a magic system works.
True. I like investiture a lot. I like a lot of the ways it can be. It can just be magic, but it has like a not precise, but like a subtle science behind it, which is really fun. So
I like that this man is such a nerd. He made a meta magic system to accompany all of his magic systems.
Essentially, yeah. So Mistborn TTRPG, I think, is going to be bigger for Cosmere overall, and then it's going to give players the chance to play both. And so I think that's going to spark a lot of interest in general in people. Also, during these times, we're going to be getting the... oh, crap. Because the Brotherwise games, they're Plot Weaver. Plot Weaver is their generic system that they're going to release that uses the core of the system. And I'm actually very interested to see what they do with that, because I do think that there's a lot there. And if I'm going to play Anima Beyond Fantasy and just homebrew the shit out of it, there's no reason why I shouldn't try to do that with something like Plot Weaver. So...
yeah, like if Plot Weaver just works out really well, like I don't think it'll ever replace Anima, because it's just such a special beast. Like the jank is kind of the reason it works as a game.
Kind of.
In a way,
it's more
like,
that
it's just weird.
Anima gives you a lot to work with. Like,
gives you a lot of toys. Do they work all the same?
well, yeah, they're not balanced, but like the Dominus book is probably one of the best ones just because it gives you the lineages of blood or legacies of blood, which is just I made a character I read in a book recently in Anima recently.
Yeah.
And it was surprising how good and accurate I could do that, which is insane because of the specificity of how his power works in the book. And it got real close in the game. It's really fun.
This isn't the man I hate.
It is the man you hate.
Ah. Fuck that guy. It's gonna paint. This is gonna like. I get too method with this shit. I'm gonna like read that book at some point and like just fucking hate him on sight because I'm gonna associate it too hard with our game. And that'll be very fun. Like that's the sick part. Like you can just do all this. And yeah, I completely agree. The key book is probably one of the coolest books they put out because that's the book I give people where they're like, "What's Anima?" And I'm like, "You should just kind of really page through this PDF. Here you go. Skip a lot of the rule text. Just go to like the impossible weapons.
Impossible weapons, yeah.
Go to some of like the pre-made key ability stuff. Like just look at the big picture things it gives you and realize this is what the game is allowing you to do and more. It's sick. And like I also love like a minor addition they did. The improvement to the martial arts system where they're like, hey, let's make a lot more martial arts and then we have the advanced martial arts.
I think that's really add that many new ones, honestly. They made them layered, so now there's a basic expert and supreme version of the basic ones anyway.
Yeah, they mainly just like they didn't even add like a crazy amount. They just compounded all the rules in like one spot. They made it flow really well. Yeah, I'll give Anima that. I think these books are actually really well laid out.
I agree,
which
actually.
is insane. It is insane for like the type of game it is, to where I can comprehend these rules. Because if I'm like, I want to learn how key works, there's 5 pages. And like they're direct. Here's all the rules of like how key works, and then here's all the tables and bullshit like afterwards.
Yeah.
So like now you know what to do. Let's make it. They have a really good layout and they flow good. It doesn't have the fucking draw steal issue. It doesn't have the Pathfinder 2E issue. I would have expected a game like this to be early core Pathfinder 2E, where it's like this is hard to parse. It's so like text dense.
Yeah. What I think makes Anima work the best is the creator is just such a weeb and just put everything they liked in anime in the game. And they're like, okay, I like this thing. Let me make rules for it. And so now you can have like wire weapons. Now you can have like opening the gates like in Naruto. Now you can do like all kinds of things. And he just put every single one of those, like the book isn't necessarily based on like a core concept that they expanded upon. The book is like, all right, let me take all my favorite things and then put them in my anime universe. And that's what makes Anima, I think, work the most, is just in Anima, you have things to choose, things to do, and things you don't have to make up yourself. Like, I think one of the biggest flaws of modern tabletop has been this idea of the amorphous powers or the ambiguous ideas where it's like, all right, here's a vague power that you can use how you want. You just got to dress it up.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's cool. And it's like the Cosmere RPG is a really good example. Here's the surges. You have the power of gravity. And so you get some of these powers and they write down some specific things. But overall, like how gravitation works is you think about it and then you just try to do it through the game system. Where I feel like, especially like game, and I don't even think this is like a crunch versus non-crunch conversation. It's more of just like if you tell players, if you give players a cool toolkit to use, they'll make cool things with it. But if you give players something that's more ambiguous, they can make more cool things. It just takes more time because they have to dress it up. They just get inspired less by your system. and they had to take their inspiration from outside of your game to make your game cool, essentially.
Like, I think it is there's a really fun playground between these two like concepts. Not even like, because I agree, it's not even like a one is better than the other or rules light versus crunch. It is what is the best thing for someone's creativity, and like there are people that run on both ends of the gambit, because I definitely run on both ends of the gambit, because like Stormlight's magic is so sick, like just from a narrative sense, of having, you have the power of gravity. You can do this thing, like it sets out, this is your power, these are the things you can do, and then it kind of just like slaps you on the ass to like go forward and like figure it out. And that's sick, because you have these moments where you can really get custom with it. And then I think a thing like Mistborn is like, well, you have this power you can do. You can push on metal. You can pull on metal. And like there's some still vagueness in that aspect, but it's a lot more specific of like, what ability do you have? And both are sick, because I think that the specificity, especially with Anima, really builds on, because it's, instead of having those moments where it's like, hey GM, I'm going to play a warlock in D&D, but can I have the most common one I see? Can I have my Eldritch Blast be like a gun? Instead of just saying, I want to reflavor it, what if your game just had, hey, here's an Eldritch gun? Yeah. Like that, there's the difference there. Yeah. I think there's a incredible strength of having that, where there's so many options. You can tailor make exactly what you want, but a lot of those options are also open. Like if you decide to be a key user, you can make your own shit, and like that's good ambiguity. My mind went to a bad example where one of the reasons I don't fuck with Draw Steel, and this could be just unfair criticism. When reading through it, I felt like it was harder for me to get a character that would be mine. It felt like I'd be playing the abilities a bit more. Yeah, I agree. And like that's the thing you don't want. I think there's a line in the sand, because I can make a really sick character with the incredible specificity of like Pathfinder 2e. And I can also make a really good character with the openness of, you do this ability. And it just depends how that jumps to you. But I will prefer the specificity. I think every good example of a game I can think of has very specific abilities it gives you that allow you to make something yours. Well, and I think what Anima does well, and why I tend to like specificity more than just vagueness, is Anima's has a bunch of specific powers, but a lot of them are also very modular in a way. Oh, yeah. So you can take specific ideas, combine them together to make then something new and custom for what you want to do. Where in other games, you just kind of say that's what your power is or does, you know? It's just like in like the Cosmic RPGs version, it's like, all right, you're a windrunner, so you have gravitation and you have adhesion, and they, again, in the books do have some kind of specific ways that you can use the powers, but there's not very like clean abilities players can stack together to like create an identity. It's just about whatever they make. But in Anima, I'll use the wire weapon as an example, because again, it works for a lot of very interesting ideas. You can have the invisible wires, you know, where you can tie people up, cut them with the wires, all this kind of stuff. Or you could infuse them with fire. Now you're burning people with it. Or you could combine this weapon with the puppet weapon in addition. So now your character is not just a character who uses wires to cut people up, but also uses these wires to manipulate a puppet that can do all kinds of crazy things too. And it's just like a lot of things are very augmentable, and they're very specific, but because they can be combined, because the system lets you combine them, it lets you make very interesting character ideas. And that's what I think is better for players in general, but also for like even more creative people, because it gives validity to the thing that you create. It's not just, this works the way it is because I say it does, like it does in a lot of TTRPGs. This works the way it does because it works the way it does in the system. Like you've
taken parts that do things, combine them together to do something else that's very interesting. And a lot of games, it just feels like I'm saying, hey, this works this way because I say it does. This is my flavor, and that's it.
It is the route I'd prefer. Well, is that way of animas. It balances having open and like very specific identities, because like it's what a good tabletop game does. And specificity lines itself easier to that. Of I think your core book is kind of fucked up for your game if like you go through it, you really dig through everything, and an average person just doesn't immediately have a character jumping in their heads.
Yeah.
If your book doesn't immediately inspire what you'd want to play in the system, I think you should probably go back to the drawing board a little bit. Anima does that, and I think the reason Anima is such a special game is just because it gets so specific. It forces you in character creation and like engaging with the rules to create something that is so you. And no two character is going to be the same. Like, you can have a character that's playing with Key, but they're going to feel completely different. And you make a character where you look at it and you're like, I couldn't recreate this in any other system. Yeah. And I like that aspect too. I like that there's a reason I'd be playing Anima over Pathfinder. I couldn't create half the bullshit I'm doing. I couldn't play my current character. I'm going later on. I'm specifically going for, he is like a weird fake martial art mage. I'm definitely stealing the ability from the Cosmos tree that I've ripped a few, and I'm changing some, because to be honest, some can be made a little better.
Yeah.
They're not as optimized as they could be. I love the one where you open a little hole in reality and throw meteors at people.
Yeah.
Like, that's sick as hell. I like the dodge buff and automatic movement it does. I just think it can be made a little better. And I love that aspect, and I like the idea of having a character it's very like Oracle is like the closest class, but he'd be a full caster, not a martial artist.
Right.
Having that, like, I need to know what I'm doing. And that's also my personal interpretation of Key and Anima, as I really like. I like the idea that it is a oneness with your body. Like, I have this life energy of myself I can manipulate and work to my advantage, and then I'm taking that concept and adding the Hermetic philosophy, like the main phrase everyone hears, as above, so below. It means finding that oneness between the universal and the personal. It's finding that link between the two. And that's what this character is. He has this broad universal knowledge, and he's incorporating it with the personal. And like, I can't do that in any other game. It's a very special game for a very specific type of person, but I think it's worth looking at and worth learning from people trying to make their own games.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where I genuinely think that more TTRPGs should move away from the ambiguous generalized power sets. Like, I understand the whole creativity, right? Like, we want to give you this thing so that you could turn it into anything you want. And it's like, or you could make something very specific for a specific thing that's really cool that I want to do, you know? Like, a lot of TTRPGs seem like they're trying to be omni systems, you know, play this for everything you want, you know? That's kind of the idea behind Daggerheart. Like, Daggerheart's abilities and powers, and it doesn't even have a world setting or anything like that. It's just, you want to play a fantasy game? Here is the fantasy system. And
it's doing well in its goal of, hey, here's the 5e replacement.
Right. But what makes games like, what's going to make Mistborn interesting is you're playing in this very well developed world and system, and you're going to get to be a part of that. And not only that, but like, the GM just doesn't have to make up everything to make it work, you know? And your powers will probably be still somewhat vague, but they'll be so linear vague that, like, especially when it comes to like steel pushing and iron pulling. It's like you can do that in so many interesting ways, and it's not too ambiguous because you're doing exactly what it says. You're pushing or pulling on metal, period. It doesn't have to be so weird. Like some of the surges can be where it's just like gravitation, but you can apply gravitation to other things in different kinds of ways. And also in the Stormlight Archives book, they kind of put some weird handicaps on some of the powers, which I don't like. Like, if you have gravitation, you can't just touch someone and send them flying into the atmosphere. They do go up into the atmosphere if you manage to hit them, but it's like at not a very fast rate, not like they'd show in the books.
It is like the rate that the body can hold on to investiture, because like you're doing it by investing an object, and then the body is not great at holding it, especially if you're flying through the air and probably screaming. Well, granted, it's not holding it in your body in the same way as like a person who breathes in Stormlight, but it's that idea of like you've charged them up and they'll fall out. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the thing of okay, I can't have Kaladin insta kill everyone. Even though Seth does that to some shitters in the first
Seth
book.
does that plenty, and I mean, Kaladin doesn't do it because that's just not his way, but like...
It would be such a funny anticlimactic thing if finally, maybe in a battle, he's coming face to face with Moash and he can deal with the stressor of it. And then, or even fucking Sigzil, he's just like, Moash, and he just taps him and he goes, like goes flying.
Moash is super investiture resistant now, I'm sure.
He would be, yeah. It is funny in that idea of, if there's a big scary boss and then you can just go like, and they just fly away.
Yeah. But like in the book, Seth sends guys just like flying straight into the sky. Like,
I mean, you get them high enough that the fall damage will kill. Like no matter what.
It always does. Almost no one survived it. In fact, I don't think a single person he actually sent flying survived it besides Kaladin.
I mean, it's literally the only other people I can think of are the people in that one fight he did in the castle. Like, the second fight he did, where he was, like, sending everyone to the ceiling and down, because, like, that's not enough to insta-kill, but you're definitely, like, probably breaking a leg on the way down, or, like, something like that. Because that one, he was, like, fighting people as they were, like, killing them as they were getting up off the floor. That's because it's an enclosed space, and he physically can't send you higher.
Yeah.
Like, it's not anything else about that. That's, like... They were on the ceiling for a little bit before they came down.
Yeah. So, it's... I understand, right? And also, like, Anima's as crazy as it is because it has, like, 5 books that we use for a lot of its stuff. And obviously a lot of indie games can't just come out with 5 books to make their game fully fleshed out. But even, like, core Anima book was pretty good and still gave you like a lot of options, and the other books just further refined that and gave you more and more. Like the Dominus book, like I said, is probably just the best book of the bunch, just because it gave you probably some of the most character defining changes you can have in the system.
I mean, even on like the shit it gives you, like summoning gives you either traditional summoning or the Arcana.
Yeah,
to do that level.
And then the Supernatural book gave it another thing with invocations, where you can just embody the spirits of heroes.
It's like it already had like enough cool shit from base.
Yeah,
and that is an aspect too. I honestly hope that is in the world of indie tabletop, can get to that point easier, because there's a lot of times with a lot of older games, like early 2000s is a hot spot because I think that's around when Anima came out. The 90s were also a big point for this, where games release so much books, the question is, how the fuck is that profitable?
Right.
That's one of the things that ate White Wolf early on. It ate it like a decade or so into it. Because the amount of games they pumped out that did not sell well. Like, at all. That's one of the big reasons they did Chronicles. Is because, like, they were putting out Fae, which did alright. They put out Demon the Fallen, and to my understanding, that is, like, the worst selling game they made.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of shit like that, where it's just, why are you pumping out so many of these books? Or, an example that came up recently-ish in, like, the scale of making lore videos. African lore for WoD goes really hard. There's a book called the, like, something of the Ebony Kingdoms, and it's really cool. But it's a '90s attempt at making like a fantasy kind of African setting. And it fleshes out a lot of stuff, but it's clear, in the '90s they didn't have as many resources. Meanwhile, we have the Mwangi Expanse, which I think is one of the best examples of how to do that. But like, it adds a lot of cool aspects. But then the immediate question is, who is this book for? Because like, how many people are going to set a game in Africa, use all of this? How many people are going to, or are they just going to do it for like a couple sessions? And like, it sold all right because it has vampire stuff, had mage stuff, had all that. But that's an era I kind of wish we could go back to, even if a lot of the books were okay. I wish publishing was cheaper for people. So we got games that have like, oh yeah, here's these books, we'll stick to these because there's 20 more. It's like, bro, what?
See,
like, I want that.
That's the thing, right? So there are still a ton of TTRPG books coming out. There's a Transformers TTRPG. Like,
I'm not surprised.
I just found randomly when I went to Cosmic Games like a few months ago, just a Transformers one, and there's all kinds of books. To be fair, publishing used to be, I think, a generally cheaper thing to do, and it's become a lot more difficult, especially now internationally. But what's really weird, and I think there's a lot of TTRPG stuff that is coming out, but it's all locked behind like Discords and Kickstarters, and when they finally release, most of them don't go to stores. Most of them are like, go to our website and you can buy the book there. And
yeah, like that's the way you have to do it to not bankrupt yourself. Or here's another trend I see with like indie tabletop, and I don't even hate this because I think that's also totally good. I see a lot of indie tabletop creators where they make a book, make like their game, and then they're not gonna be like, all right, in this game we're gonna be updating it for the next like 10 years. They're instead like, nice, let's make another one, make a different game, different setting. And I think that's sick because hell yeah, make your shit, and hell yeah, more variety. But also, like I said, I kind of miss that style of, you have a bunch of books in a tabletop game and your question is, who the fuck is this for?
Right.
Like, I don't know who this book is for. I say that so often for World of Darkness. Like, who the fuck is this for? But I'm glad you made it. It's like, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, well, honestly, what I think the TTRPG scene is really, really missing is interesting settings and worlds that are developed for people to explore. Because, to be fair, right, a lot of TTRPGs do come out with, like, world lore and a setting. Drawsteel does, funny enough. But a lot of them are, here's my fantasy world, and you can only read so many fantasy settings before it just kind of becomes tired.
I'll even counter in the opposite way of there's a lot of times I'm reading through a world lore for like a game that's come out, and the lore feels like it's written with the understanding that you as the player or GM are going to immediately throw out all of it and like not touch it at all. It's written as like the most straightforward, to the point, here's all this stuff, I know you're not going to read it, I know you're not going to use it, and because like you're just going to do whatever you want anyways. Like, it's written with that implication, unlike a lot of older games where it was really a bunch of nerds in like their little company fleshing out the world as they wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Anima's really great. First of all, I don't think we would have enjoyed Anima as much as we have if it wasn't for the crazy world lore. They came out with a whole book, a big book, just for lore.
It's a good book. Like, I like how it handles it. I think one of the coolest tools that it did. So many things of this game I think you need to like learn from.
Yeah.
And The like if you're making your games, check out these books because like the world lore book, the tool it adds of here's a region and here's like a bunch of in region plot ideas for you. Like
Story
that is
seeds,
such a good tool that like I don't see that in other world books at all. I see just like here's all the lore, here's art, instead of here's how you use it in your game. It is a thing. I'm a big believer that all art is a great tool of like a stepping stone. You learn from good, you learn from the bad. If it's middling, you learn nothing. That's when art is a failure. That's when you failed creating something. A fun example of this, because Anima is a game I would say has a lot of struggles. I would not call it fantastically designed, but I love it to death. A game that's surprising in how much it's actually impacted, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. A game that's kind of shit. It's not good. There's so many issues, but there's like a couple of core things that game did where it's like, oh fuck, that's a dope idea. What if we took these elements and like iterated on it to find what it could be? Funnily enough, there's a line between Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, a dumb shit game, and the Power Rangers Battle for the Grid fighting game, which is insanely sick. Like they were big fans of that game, and then they made Power Rangers version of it, and it's like, hey, and by the way, it's better.
Yeah.
Like that's how you do it. You learn from everything around you, and you figure out why something works the way it does, and like how good it is, or maybe it's there's like a flaw in it, and you're like, I can patch this. I would just love it if someone was like made a game and they were like, hey, what's up? I was inspired by Anima Beyond Fantasy, and it ruled. I want that so bad.
I mean, yeah, it's something that, to be fair, I'm making my own game, but I don't think I'm going to do quite what Anima did. At least in like the whole, I'm a weeb and I'm going to take all the weeb things and make it in my game setting. But what I really want from TTRPGs is to find something to like invest in, to find like a world to invest in, because like rules are fine, and it takes a rare TTR, and this is another thing as well, is a lot of TTRPGs don't even innovate on rules really that much. A lot of them just kind of go in these circles where like a designer's like, oh, I thought of this cool idea, let me implement it. But like in our game did that like 5 years ago. It's just no one, you know, a lot of game designers, one, don't play a lot of games, so they don't have a lot of like ability to see what people are developing. And two, there's just a lot of people are too afraid to break the conventions of tabletop because they're like, my book won't sell because it's not close enough to D&D. Oh, Cosmere, I so wish you weren't a D20 system.
I know.
But
I think it is a thing of it makes me think about making a game lore and game setting that you get really tied into. God, I have not been hooked by anything new. For like tabletop specifically. One aspect I also think that's being lost, it's one of the reasons I enjoy World of Darkness so much. Not even because like I just like how the lore is written. I like all this. I think World of Darkness is honestly one of the best executed tabletop settings. Not even just like, oh, it's so high quality, it's so cool, it's so aesthetically interesting. It's the philosophy of not having a hard canon. And a lot of games fumble this, where they're like, here's these events, and it happened this way, and it did this. Instead, what World of Darkness does in a lot of situations is just have it so open. Because like the real World of Darkness is the World of Darkness you run at your table. The lore is written to be apocryphal and self-contradictory, like as its intention. So you have, instead of what another game will give you, which is a fuck ton of retcons and all these lore inconsistencies, it's now written with the concept of, okay, half of these stories like intersect, and so there's a nugget of truth in there that I can work with. Or I just covered the Bali in Vampire. Every single edition of Vampire, they are completely different.
Yeah.
And instead of being a weird lore inconsistency, it's more like, wow, look at all these tools I have for what I can do. The Gehenna timeline of Final Nights is how you end a game world without it feeling like dog shit of Games Workshop. who did it really poorly, because instead of, hey, here's a game, like a little adventure book, exactly what happens, it's instead, here's 6 different versions of what you can run. Here's like a bunch of ideas, a bunch of concepts in 6 like plot threads that we wrote. Here you go. And that's, I think that's a real strength. It's a strength to have ambiguity and leave it to the player, because the player isn't going to run your lore as it's written. They're probably not going to read most of it. But if you write it in the aspect of, we have a lot of these main core concepts and then the specifics you can play with, I think it resonates a lot more with people.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be super honest as well. Like, I think TTRPGs need a bit more novelty to be, like, desirable. Because, again, when your game is just, here's my fantasy world, why would I look into your fantasy world when I'm already playing a game of fantasy like I like? Like, give it weird powers. Make the magic work in quirky and weird ways. Give me some identifiable traits so that when I look at your board game on the shelf, I'm not thinking, oh, another one of these. I'm thinking, wow, that's a really cool idea. I don't know, I might check that out. Because the sheer number of just, here's my quirky fantasy setting is tiring. Like, because it just doesn't feel like you're playing anything new. You're just playing a different coat of paint on, like, the same kinds of themes and tropes and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it doesn't matter, like, and here's the thing, right? It doesn't matter if your world setting is really, really good. Because if it's a really, really good fantasy setting, I have to open your book and read probably a good number of pages before I get what you're aiming at and can appreciate it. And that's just not something I'm willing to do most of the time when looking into new TTRPGs.
Yeah, like if I gotta read a novel, a whole 200 pages or something to get into it, I think there is a way that it can kind of get hooked, to make something that stands out in a good way. Because, yeah, like if you're like, hey, check out my game, it's in like a fantasy setting, you immediately have a bunch of assumptions of the fantasy it is.
Yeah.
I think there are some dope examples of games where they want you to explore it. And, like, I think they're interesting. Like, I will say of, like, recent lore, Wild Sea is probably one of the ones that I'm like, that's really interesting of an idea. That kind of aether punk style, but also nature-y, like a melding of that. It's like, this is a very specific aesthetic, and I'm into it. And that's a concept you hit. You find a very specific aesthetic and be very unapologetically, I like it this way. If you don't, sucks. And if you do that, a lot of people be like, all right, shit, I see the vision. The other aspect is stop sticking so traditional fantasy.
Yeah.
Because the 2 games I can think of, they're designed for, not even, these aren't tabletop games. Elder Scrolls is a very compelling world because it's so fucking weird. Like, Morrowind being the way it is, it was designed in that idea of, I want to make it feel like you are on an alien planet. You are in a culture completely different, and you're in a region completely different to anything you've seen before. And then later on, as like it became a lot more traditional fantasy, the lore nerds of Elder Scrolls that work for Bethesda really kept the undercurrent of that. The Dwemer being really strange. This like weird spiritual and sci-fi underlining of like little things hidden in the lore. And then another one, a recent one, Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon, where it's a style of fantasy. At first you're like, okay, so it's what, like gothic dark fantasy, but it's gone all in on specifically Celtic mythology. A standard enemy you can find are like fucking red caps, and like I had a fae encounter when I was playing it. This strange like mother of bees who invited me to her home, And this entire region is like they're people wearing like beehives on their head, and they're all like seemingly fucking out of it because of the influence of this like greater fae nearby. That's something I haven't seen in like a traditional fantasy for a while. Is like that style of fantasy, and you just need to have an undercurrent of like, why would I care, instead of just like the generic kind of D&D style fantasy of orcs and goblins and dragons and loot. That's whatever you picture when you think of Western fantasy. You need something to make yourself different without it being like, whoa, quirky, we got fun little guys.
Yeah, like I said, it needs a level of novelty. I think what makes games like Lancer so appealing to a lot of people is the art is really good, and it's really accessible.
Oh yeah.
Mech combat compared to some of the other mech TTRPGs out there. And when you open the book and you start looking at the mechs, you start building immediately just because their powers are so like short, concise, and they tell you what it is. You're looking over the Blackbeard and you're like, oh, I get a chain sword or chain axe, or I get these wires I can shoot out and link up and grab people so they can't get away from me, kind of stuff. Or you see like any of the Horus mechs and the weird things that they can do, like the Manticore, whose whole thing is just being a sacrificial martyr that just burns alive itself and its enemies and stuff like that.
I will say huge shout out to the game for having their designers. I imagine there might have been an idea for this, of having like a big intersection of all the different types of mech fans, and like then making mechs that are going to appeal to everyone. Like you got your very armored core mech warrior style, you got your fucking anime style mechs, you got your monster fuckers in there for good measure,
you got your Evangelican mechs. Yeah,
you got like those style of mechs. To me, as someone who largely hasn't liked the genre, because I find like a lot of mech stuff really slow, clunky, and kind of boring, there's a lot of exceptions, and Lancer is one of them, because I think it hits that line so well of we have something for everyone. And then also as a sci-fi nerd, I think Lancer's lore is really cool, because it makes some decisions that I've thought were always really cool for sci-fi. And I like the novelty that the tone is the way it is. I like the novelty of having a big human space empire that isn't shitty, that is trying its best, but running an empire and keeping it growing and like trying to actually help everyone is very difficult. And like the factions it's created are very cool. I mean, the Carrick and Trade Baronies are literally just like the Imperium and Dune.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. And like that's cool because the Imperium and Dune is very sick. So it's got a thing. I think if you like sci-fi and mechs, you will find something you enjoy in it. And like that's how you make a really good setting that you can put a lot of stock into, or take the surface level and largely ignore the rest.
Yeah, and that's a thing too. Like sometimes someone's gonna buy your book just because they're gonna be inspired to like run their favorite system in your world, and I think that's honestly a win in many cases. Like if someone buys your TTRPG just for the lore, job well done. I think you've done pretty good in that situation. Like rules are hard, but I think even more than that, what TTRPGs should be are windows into unique and wonderful worlds. And there's a lot of games that are out there that do this, but I think there's a lot of indie tabletop creators who get kind of sucked into the idea of like, I need to perfect rules. I need to make the rule system in my game really good, because TTRPGs feels like it has this kind of gap in it that no one can fill, which is like rules don't exactly match the experience that well. And there's a lot of games that kind of tweak it and twist it, but there's not like a single TTRPG that does like everything TTRPG players wants really well. And a lot of developers focus on that element and then they build like their world or idea around it. And it's like, that's cool and interesting, but what I want is just a unique experience. I want to open a book and be excited to play your game. And rules are very hard and like hard to judge if that's going to be the case or not. But what is going to make me interested in trying your game out is when I can make very interesting characters.
True. I'll be right back. I just got a fucking nosebleed. Be back in a few seconds.
All right, well, Alex is
Or
dying
no.
from an aneurysm because that idea was too cool. So it's very interesting how TTRPGs, again, like, this is not new to like any genre of media. There's tons of video games that are like, hey, we saw Vampire Survivors, so let's make our own Vampire Survivors. Or roguelites are really cool nowadays, so let's make everything a roguelite. And the games that stand out, the games that like become very popular and well known, are the games that step out of that. So, for instance, Lethal Company, that started a whole genre in itself, and that game was not very good game mechanic wise. It was very silly, but a lot of people played it, and a lot of people liked it because it was novel and it was an experience that's very hard to create in the gaming scene because you have to actually come up with some new ideas. And in TTRPGs, obviously you want to make money because you can't make more product without more money. So it's very easy to be like, okay, let me make some compromises on my idea. Let me make some compromises on my game's overall design so that it can appeal to more people or to the bigger crowds of tabletop players and the like. And what that does instead is it cheapens the experience they might have created to make a thing that is just less established than the things they're trying to recreate in the first place. Now, I'm not saying necessarily you should just try to make your game mechanically or thematically 100% different than anything on the market. But what I'm saying is you need to have something that's whole intent is to grab people's attention and make them try your game, and not just be like, hey, I think I could do fantasy better, so let me make my slightly more interesting fantasy setting than like D&D, because your slightly more interesting setting than D&D is not going to be that much more appealing to people who already like something that's like D&D, because D&D is already established. And that's kind of, I think this kind of links back to the specificity versus vagueness kind of conversation, where a lot of these systems that try to be like your Omni system just kind of lack the heart and the desire that games that are a lot more like Morkborg, right? That game is very much its own thing. And if it didn't just err a little bit too on the side of weird, it'd probably be a game I'd be a lot more eager to try. I still want to try Morkborg, but like when you see Morkborg in a shop, your eyes are drawn to it, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" It's a very weird looking game.
Because like, I mean, I have the same feeling with Morkborg. Of I look at it and I'm just like, holy shit. It's like I said, it's a very specific vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm here for it. Sell me. Also, yeah, I don't know what the fuck. Well, I get like 1 or 2 nosebleeds a year, usually when it gets cold. And I guess that was my one. That was weird. I was like, that feels funny. I think, overall, sometimes there's a happy middle ground, but world lore should be viewed as a tool. It is a tool to get people to play your game, where you have you want to get the people who want to make the fun characters, the people who want to get into cool lore. You gotta attract that. But your lore is a vessel for your players to play more of your game, not all the time of, hey, let me spout like the cool thing I made up. I have a really fun inversion of the Tolkien Western fantasy. Well, like, cool. Okay, I'll run it like a normal Western fantasy then. Give me a reason why I shouldn't ignore your rule, like, and make it interestingly tied into and have everything intersect. I kind of like overall. I understand the Pathfinder setting is very okay. It's definitely, I think, a one of the better showings of a kitchen sink fantasy world. I think it is a lot better than others on the market. But the way it also keeps me kind of interested is how much it ties in that lore to the rules. So then I'm like, okay, I'm curious about this ancestry. Oh, this archetype is a very lore specific thing. Let me look into that. And that's how you get character concepts running. Like there's a strength in doing that.
Yeah. Though I will say, like, I agree, and I think games that integrate their world lore into their rules is good. I think that's something that more games should do because it makes a lot of sense, and it it makes things feel meaningful to the system, which is good. Though Galarian, I think, is just like the better D&D world, right? It feels like the kind of setting that D&D should have.
Yeah.
But I very, very rarely see people say, "Oh, I chose Pathfinder because of its world lore."
Oh no, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I do not think it's done fantastically. It is simply for a setting that is trying to have everything. It's trying to have your cake and eat it too. I think it is better than a lot of other attempts I've seen.
yeah, I agree.
There's some flops. One of which, fucking D&D, because they dropped the
Yeah,
lore. I think because of that same aspect of written with the perspective, you're going to ignore it. So
yeah,
what's the point in putting money into making that?
and it's something that's truly tragic. Again, like I feel like a lot of TTRPGs miss that novelty, or their novelness is so vague that like it's just not interesting. I know Devious mentioned earlier Legend in the Mist, which is a much more it's a context based narrative TTRPG. So you get like abilities in the game based on like your character's experiences. You write them down. It's kind of like how uh Lancer's pilot skills work, you know. But Legend in the Mist, even though I do think it does some interesting things, I mean, they have their whole like solo game thing. Oh goodness, I didn't realize that we were, you know, hopefully that doesn't get this copyright claimed. That'd be sad. Didn't loop my music. Got too
Was
into
it
the
playing
conversation.
the playing copyrighted shit?
I don't know. But anyway, but the thing with Legend in the Mist is it just feels like a low fantasy setting. Like I'll pull it up right now just so I'm not like, because I did look into it because it has like its solo play thing, which is interesting. No. But you look at the art. Art is really good. But this just looks like it looks like a Northern European fantasy, like low fantasy thing. Click the Adventures tab, and you see the story of the Green Maiden, who looks like a hag woman, or the next one, the Axe and the Bell, and you see this cool woman pulling out what appears to be a magic sword. And then the Barleytown Fair, and it's just this happy guy talking to a magical creature on his shoulder. All this really screams, honestly, generic fantasy. Nothing here is so unique that I'm very motivated to look more into the game. I'm looking for more TTRPGs to play. I'm saying this as someone who is looking for a reason. I looked into Legend of the Mist before. I actually didn't look at this adventure part, but like, none of this is interesting. None of this is fascinating. There's another game that's been coming out recently that a lot of people have been talking about in the indie scene, Draconim, which is Dragon Rider, the TTRPG. But when you look at Draconim, you see somewhat generic fantasy with a dragon. Granted, the dragon they chose was really good because it's like an insectoid looking dragon. It's like a beetle head and everything like that. And when you look through some of the art, you get some really cool dragons. And I'm like, that's interesting. I might look into this because there's not a lot of dragon rider type books or anything like that.
The dragon rider style of fantasy, like that dragon taming, dragon bonding thing, is a subsect of fantasy where I'm like, I'm aware it exists, but if you put me at gunpoint and ask me to name examples of like the setting in games and shows and whatever, I'd be like, Aragon, and then I'd struggle to think of a second. And like looking at the art, yeah, I'm immediately like, okay, I know this vibe exists, and having like a newer form of this and what looks like their vibe of, we're going to make sure if you open this book, even if you're like into dragons or you kind of like, all right, sure, whatever, dragons are fun, or you're obsessed with it, you will have a favorite dragon.
Yeah.
Like that's how you do something like this. You gotta make everything designed so varied that someone will always have their favorite.
But when you go to their backer kit, one of the first images after you scroll down from like the core one is a bunch of little guys, a bunch of fantasy little guys. You got mouse with a wand, dragonborn with a bow, a angel demon woman, and probably
I fuck with that one.
Magic elf.
I fuck with the angel demon thing.
Well, I know your aesthetics.
Yeah.
But none of this part here actually makes me generally less interested. Because it just looks like standard fantasy. It just looks like standard TTRPG fantasy.
Like, of it, because I look at that and I'm like, damn, I'd play that angel thing. But I think a stronger piece would be have these four characters interacting with a dragon. Keep it with the dragon stuff too, because like, yeah, I want to know more of, oh yeah, okay, there's these fun little guys you can play. That's fun. You're not just playing standard humans. But like, does it impact what dragons they're hanging out with? Are there dragons associated with each culture? Because that's my first thought, is like, I want to see them with a dragon.
Yeah, it just, again, it just screams too much generic fantasy. Now, to be fair, I'm not a little guy kind of person. And not like I'm a human supremacist either, but when I look at a game and I just see a bunch of disparate random races on it, it doesn't make me feel like there's going to be a lot of cohesiveness in your world setting. That's just how it feels. Like, I think what I really do like is the Stormlight Archives like cover art and books and stuff like that. Or not their cover art, but like one of their spreads, which is just like someone in Shardplate wrecking a bunch of the
oh yeah, that one's specifically Adolin. In going to town.
On the what are they called?
The Parshendi.
Where
they're the Parshendi if they're on the steps, because they're not they've been freed, or they don't have.
I mean, I guess that's fair. Though technically they're the listeners.
Not at that point when that scene's happening.
No, they were called the listeners. Culturally, they call themselves the listeners.
That's true. Yeah. It's singers that I was thinking of, that they're not yet.
Yeah, they're not singers. But that art's really cool because you get someone ambiguous. You know, they could be a different race, you never know, but they're in cool magic armor, beating the shit out of non-human kind of human looking being crab people. And it's something that very much invokes what the setting would feel like, you know. You get a very strong sense, like, okay, I'm seeing this person, like, even if, like, discounting the terrain, even though the terrain is a huge part of the setting, you wouldn't know that looking at a couple images. But the Shardplate looks really cool, and the people they're fighting, you know, they all seem to be one particular race of people, and they seem to be like some kind of enemy race. And it's like, okay, this magic armor looks really cool. I'm kind of interested. It's still a little vague fantasy, but you know, the Stormlight Archive I don't think is a good book to say this is good on the surface. It's more of like, you want something written by Brandon Sanderson, here you go. That's its selling point, really.
Yeah, I'll say actually, like, just kind of I'm looking at more art for the backer kit for Draconum. An immediate better showcase is if you click on the dragons tab on the left, where the first thing you see is that same exact like angel hell, like a demon thing with a dragon, and I'm immediately like, okay, I'm curious. I got my interest peaked, because like that one is just a showcase. Hey guys, check it out. We got non-humans. But this one, I'm like, fuck. All right, that's quite honestly, that's an immediate vibe of I kind of want to play him.
Yeah, I like when you scroll down a little further, you get the wolf guy and the ice dragon. That looks also really cool.
Yeah, like that's I think a better showcase of like what it should be. But I think that it's less of that art as like a front and center bit is less like engaging, more than it's like it's a tool to show you visually what 4 of the ancestries you can play as look like, when the strength of it is going to be, here's like a character design with showing that an ancestry that you can play with a dragon that fits the aesthetic. So then it should feel like you both are one and the same. You have this like creature you've created a bond with, and which is the point of it. With these like stuff, the moment I click on the dragons, I'm immediately more hooked. I'm more curious about this game. Also, I'll say big kudos to the cover art. I think all 3 of these books for the covers are really sick.
I like the second one for sure. The first one looks very generic fantasy. I mean, I do like the weird bug dragon thing. I think that's more interesting, but that covers so little the entire picture that like I don't know. Second book is a lot better.
I like the second and third one. I like the art on it. But like the first one, I think if you're trying to design a core rulebook cover art, the first thing it hits to me is like, this is a game about like the adventure, the exploration. I'm like, it feels like it's more filled with wonder when you have that one. It's like, I'm setting off on my adventure.
Yeah.
Solo rulebook is, oh fuck, I'm in the thick of it. And then the Herald guide is, oh shit, let's throw down. Like this look, it almost kind of looks like a progression of a character.
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah, like the character is growing, getting strong. I think, yeah, solo rulebook, he's also holding a spear. And then there's the yellow dragon that he's riding in the third book. So I like that aspect. I like that it's trying to hit the tone of what it can go for. And I'll be honest, I'm one of the elements of this fantasy setting that kind of makes me curious is the constant imagery of the giant like tree, because I'm curious what the point of that is. Oh wait, I actually like how this book is set out. They're showing screenshots of the book. Oh, that's easy to parse.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's more about like surface character, because this is actually quite a ways down the not too far down, but it's like it's a little ways down the backer kit before you get to some of these images. And some of the other books are more like generic fantasy. Like they have the Legends of Reliquaries book, which is just man standing on rock looking at gigantic sword in the distance. I really like Secrets of the Old Gods though. It's guy looking at or giant snake thing, probably dragon, looking at little man on the ground. That makes me feel very Dragonology book. I really wish that this had more of that vibe. But then Skybound Pursuits, oh no, it's a skyship. it's a ship in the clouds, and that's so generic fantasy.
Compliment my favorite ongoing fantasy trope is giant sword that has become like a world landmark. I'll be honest, I'm a sucker for it. I'm just like, that's kind of hype though. Who put that sword there?
See, now if that was more of a common trend in the books, I would be more interested. But it kind of just looks like it's there just to be a really cool screenshot.
I fuck with the forebearer, actually. That's so sick. I gotta fuck with this. I was reading another Reddit thing where people were saying, oh man, they nerfed the casters to make them feel so wimpy. Then someone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? The casters feel really good now. It's like, like, yeah, but they were nerfed their armor points. It's like, yeah, but the magic system is so crazy. You can do some fun bullshit. It's like, okay. I also like the idea of a risk and reward warlock. Oh, that's fun. A passive
may have
drawback
accidentally
active...
hooked Alex onto a new TTRPG.
I'm kind of fucking with this, Cam. I'll be honest. I'm fucking with this.
I do love the magma dragon looking thing they have on the page that has the population type and using roll tables.
Oh yeah, like I like that it looks like more of a giant snake.
Yeah.
Like I think there's the designs they're hitting for the dragons are really sick. Yeah, I might fuck with this, man. Like, just from reading through, like, the only aspect I could maybe criticize is I'm like, man, okay, so the gameplay of, like, your character doesn't seem to be crazy chunky, but the idea that I'm not just playing a person, I'm also playing a dragon is... I gotta see the dragon rules of, like, making your dragon. But I imagine they're gonna add more than just like 3 options per level, or per like 2 levels, what it looks like.
Yeah, from what I looked into, generally this system doesn't look too interesting, but who knows?
What dice system is it?
I do believe this one is a D20 system.
Oh wait, there's actually a thing right here. The game uses 6-sided dice and a 12-sided
D6s.
dice. D6 and D12s. Oh, game you shouldn't have. Oh, it's dice pools. Oh boy, Cam.
We might look into it when it comes out later, because I don't think it's out quite yet.
No, it's a demo right now. So, okay, dice pool system. I mean, success with complication. Oh boy. I
have been seeing some people talk about it. I do know, I was watching some videos on Draconim. Just a lot of people, I don't know, they were kind of very lukewarm on it after looking into it overall. So we'll see.
Damn. I hope and from also just reading through what people are talking about, they're saying like it seems like the creator is just insanely passionate about doing this, which is a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
I hope then he's using the demo to really learn how to and like adapt the system. It seems like that's also happening. It seems like he's patching stuff. But like just from what I'm looking at surface level without touching it myself, this is immediately from the backer kit. I'm like, I want to download the demo. I got to read this PDF. I might fuck with this. Even if it's not like the gameplay of it that I fuck with what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, for a Dragon Rider based TTRPG, I just, again, when some of the first images I see just feels very generic fantasy, it's where it gets a little hard for me. I really wish they had the middle book as the core cover art, because I think that one actually looks the best. It's the most interesting one. But I don't know. There's also like a level of like, this has weird mixes of like some really cool badass looking art and then some kind of cutesy silly looking art.
Like it definitely is trying to hit the both ideas of
little guys.
It really seems like
serious adventure.
It's trying to hit that like grand scale, whimsical, the wonder of exploration. And I mean, it's hitting both at the same time, because I'll at least say, like, from the art I'm seeing, I'm getting more and more intrigued and like more and more drawn to like find and actually read through whatever demo is available. More than like, okay, it's a dragon RPG, like, definitely the criticism I will agree with is that first one of just the ancestries you can play is I don't give a shit. Show me the dragons. I want to see the dragons first. And like show that later as like a thing saying, hey, by the way, you don't have to play as a human. And I'm just like, okay, like that's a tool there, not as a promotional piece.
Yeah.
More as like that's just a as you would need it showcase to just like, hey, here's 4 ancestries, here you go.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But this is at least much more on the novel side. Like, here's a TTRPG about riding dragons. There's really not many of those out there. In fact, one of the videos I was watching is like, it's kind of weird that there's not more TTRPGs based on this kind of thing.
Like, actually, like, it's such a, it's a constant vibe I see all the time of, like, the dragon trainer. How to Train Your Dragon, as, like, the movies compared to the books. The books are a little less like that.
Yeah.
But, the movie hits that vibe of, like, yeah, you get a dragon, you tame it. It's like the dragon's your friend, not a tool. I'm surprised that there's not more.
Yeah. It's very strange, but like again, this is something that I feel like would grab people, generally speaking, more than like Legend in the Mist, even though I know a lot of people are interested in that game. It just doesn't have that same novel quality that like a passive observer might notice. And you know, funny enough, speaking on that, Anima's cover art for its core book anyway is probably one of the worst ones they have. I like their other books way more art wise.
Yeah, it's just a lady.
It's just a lady in a weird art style that like isn't recreated anywhere else in the books.
Yeah, it's like, because I wouldn't say it should be, because it's one of those situations where I think like I look at the other book art and I'm like, man, they should switch it with this one.
Right.
I'm like less of that because I'm like the Gaia book cover is more like, damn, okay, what the fuck's going on? The Supernatural book is like there's an angel guy with a floating lady. Damn, that dude's got a big ass shadow wing. What's up, Sephiroth?
Yeah.
Like a lot of those elements. I will say the fucking dragon general looking guy from the Prometheum exit. That is a sick art. I wouldn't say it should be cover art material.
I think so.
Like, I think if you're having a cover art, I think a lot of times you want to go for the lower level adventurer style.
I disagree.
I think like, whatever that big piece where they're all fighting the monster, I think that could be a better cover art.
I agree, though that's definitely not lower level.
I mean, it's lower level than this guy who looks like he's summoning dragons from, like, actually, literally, he's summoning dragons.
He is summoning dragons, yeah. It's an
I think a little lower level than that, more of like, this, you are creating a party to fight a big scary monster. And then these ones are like, hey, here's a little preview of the scale we're adding to like these books. And you're like, oh, fuck, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Arcane book, I think is a little bit lower level technically.
Oh, that's the Game Master Toolkit that I was looking at too. You know, it's really simple, but I actually really like the Those Who Walked Amongst Us cover.
Yeah.
It doesn't scream, hey, by the way, this is a monster manual, like, at all.
True.
But I think it's a really good piece.
It evokes some level of mystery. You're like, what's this angel thing and why is your crystals growing out of her wings?
Rather than like, wow, that woman is holding a sword at me. That is like the most boring anime art I've seen.
It is. But I don't know. When I see a book cover, I want to know the vibe of your game and I want to know what it's going to offer me to the best of your ability to do so. Yeah. I like the Dominus book a lot because when I look at the Dominus book cover, sure, is it super anime? But this guy is using a bunch of flying magic swords. I'm like, do I get to use a bunch of flying magic swords in your game? That sounds interesting. Which that's one of the impossible weapons. My
first thought is more of, oh fuck, that's the boss.
Yeah.
That's like the final boss I'm gonna fight. And my first thought is like, oh shit, is this a monster book? And it's like, no, this is actually a key book. And in that aspect, it's like, hey, this is a key book. You see everything this guy is doing. Here's how you make it. Like, oh fuck, okay.
It's true. I do know how to do all this in the book.
And like that, looking at all of these in totality, I kind of think the Dominus Exit book cover is the best one because it immediately is like, hey, here's all the key shit you can do demonstrated in one very anime man. And I'm like, fuck yeah, brother. Let me open this shit up.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Beyond the Dreams, the Gaia book. I think that one's really good. I think it evokes a very specific kind of idea of like, here it feels like a world guide book because it feels like what I'm viewing is super important. But yeah, I like it when on the covers it looks like what is happening is something that you're supposed to be able to do in the game.
Agreed. I mean, just from like a fucking artsy analyzed perspective, I like the framing of the Beyond the Dreams book, where it almost feels like, with the framing of the piece, I think it's the Empress in there.
It is.
It feels like I'm seeing something that I shouldn't. Like I'm interrupting something as the viewer.
Yeah.
Because it feels like she's looking back, like, while approaching the throne, like almost like a little surprised I'm there. And like the throne is insane because I imagine those are statues, not people.
Yeah, those are statues. Yeah,
you gotta hold that pose forever. That sucks, bro.
Right.
But like that's a sick ass throne. And then it feels like I'm it's voyeuristic in that way of like I'm looking at this I guess compilation of the world in these like views a person wouldn't get.
Yeah. Again, it's good when a cover art feels like there's a mystery to it.
Yeah.
Like I like that Elizabeth is not standing on the throne or sitting on the throne.
It changes the framing of it really well.
It makes it feel like she shouldn't be there for some reason. Yeah. I don't know why.
It's that there's like either a I'm interrupting something or I'm watching someone who's reluctant to sit on the throne. Like that's how you do a really good framing there. Which also actually I just looked up Anima Beyond Fantasy books. The GM screen kit is exactly the cover I'm picturing of like if I had to redesign the cover, what would I do? And it's that big like party fight scene wrapped around the front and back cover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that I think would be a significantly better cover art.
I think I would agree. I do like that art a lot. So, you know.
Oh, the mirroring of the Beyond the Dreams Volume 2 is actually kind of sick.
Yeah, that one's with Methy Ghoul.
There he is. There's that fucking loser.
There's Sephiroth.
I'm still very happy Vale made me the Virgin Matthew Gaul, Chad Prince Lucanor. I really love that image.
It's really good. And if they did another book, I guarantee it would be Lucanor standing like front and center, looking from like in front of the throne.
Good. He deserves it. That man rules.
But so this is the thing, right? And this is what we've kind of been talking about the entire time. Even though I know, I know a good portion of the stream is us just looking at art, not on stream.
Yeah. There's homework while you're doing this. Don't listen to these VODs while driving. You got to be at your computer looking it along with us.
Yeah. But it's that TTRPGs, and Alex kind of said it, but I hate going back to the golden age like conversation over and over.
I don't think it's a golden age. I don't like that idea that it's better it's not the norm. It's not right now.
I know. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is a lot of people like to view it that way though, because in a way it kind of was, because there was not a lot of restriction. There wasn't this kind of strong desire to super serialize back in the day. A lot of it was just pure like people enjoying the hobby, making games they liked, and that a lot of those games were really good. And when White Wolf was back in its heyday, you know, it was probably some of the best days that Tabletop had, because a lot of the games they released were very interesting and very cool. And I played a good number of them. And nowadays, it feels like everyone is trying to make Daggerheart before Daggerheart was even a thing, you know? Like,
yeah,
it's the idea of like, I want to do my fantasy D&D that's not shitty D&D. So let's do it, but let's put a high emphasis on the little guys and the character creation, and let's let you have your idea of D&D, which, to be fair, like, there's a lot of people who like that. Like, there's a lot of people who are obsessed with the aesthetic of the D&D, you know, and Daggerheart, I think, hit that and is doing really good on it. And now Daggerheart's coming out with its next book this year, Fear and Hope, which is going to be really cool. They're adding a lot of very interesting rules into it, and I think Daggerheart is doing really, really well. But it's just not really that novel or interesting to me, despite that. It's just, hey, we made better D&D, and it's like, that's cool. I don't play D&D, but that's cool, you know. I would like more animas. I would like more Deadlands. I love the aesthetic of zombie cowboys fighting monsters. That's such a fun, interesting aesthetic, and Deadlands is such a interesting world.
It is a type of design where it's definitely not what was happening, because that's not how business works. But the vibe it gives for a lot of those older games is they're making it almost like they're not expecting to make money from it. They're just making something, and that's just what happens when you have very, like, a big niche. And, like, your niche at that point was definitely be very high margins, most likely, because, like, nerds have the most disposable income you can work with.
Yeah.
And, like, as it's changed now, the only way you can really get profit from something like that is going pure digital. That's not a great move for, like, larger things, because you also need some physical shit. It's like largely a change that I don't think has happened purely because, like, the culture of tabletop has changed. I also can see it being just the economics at play have changed. It's just, it is harder for a company that is like a publishing company to put a lot of work into something that is a, who is this for? Like, World of Darkness making all the books it did, I don't think, and understandably, they haven't done this. It hasn't been done since, like, Revised Edition, I think that was, like, early 2000s, where they're making books where your reaction is like, who the fuck is this for? Yeah. Changeling is, like, a cool game, but it's very specific, and it's also like, yeah, who'd you make this for? It's weird. Same with, like, Mage. Mage is a game mechanically that's very weird. It operates in a really interesting aspect that I wouldn't expect if you were making a game about wizards. I like that they did it the weird way, because I think it's stronger for it.
We do need to end, but I will say, rolling, yeah. I will say, so what has changed, the economics I'm sure has changed, but it's not that. It's the probable market that has changed. Because back in the day, you know, in the 90s and everything like that, there what you knew as a tabletop content creator that you were making it for a niche group. But at the time, there wasn't like this one pillar tabletop. You know, like a lot of people did play like D&D 3.5 and stuff like that. But more than anything, there was a lot more variety back in the day because the niche was smaller, and so you had more people who kind of revolved around different games and tried new things. And that's why a lot of those companies, why Wolf especially, made so many books, was because people were looking for games, and so they just kept releasing books for people to buy because that's what you would do, and you would buy a book and share it with your friends. That was the idea. The potential market now is so much bigger, and so people want that. They want that when they're making a game. It's like, why not go for the whole thing? So they want to capture a bigger crowd of people, and they're not applying to the niche anymore, like niche indie. They're like, oh, big fantasy, large group of buyers who will buy fantasy. And that's kind of like why it is the way it is now.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be it for us. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to it. This year, I think we're gonna start seeing tabletop in general start to change, start to shift and evolve. I think D&D is going to just keep dropping the ball because it, why would it change at this point? I think Daggerheart's going to start grabbing more of the market share in general, but I think that is going to cause more people to try new games. They're going to be like, I really liked D&D, but I didn't like Daggerheart because it didn't have the same kind of rules I liked or whatever. So let me try something else. If D&D is not going to scratch the itch for me, what else are people making? And I feel like Daggerheart's success has very much invigorated a lot of the tabletop scene. And there's also just a lot of interesting indie projects coming out. I mean, I'm still looking forward to Sword World. That's about to be like put in its backer kit and about to be set up to come to the US. And there's like a Chinese one that will be coming soon and all kinds of stuff. So I think we're in for some, like, the next 5 years is gonna be really good for tabletop, and we will be talking about it here. But
I'm pumped.
Anything you want to leave us off with, Alex, today before we head out?
Yeah, if you like tabletop lore, I've talked in Shield about World of Darkness endlessly. I put out a video on the Bali in Vampire, the first of my non-clan videos. I'm very happy for how that video turned out. I think it's very fun, and a fun deep dive into a group that is insanely dense and hard to actually understand because they change every edition. It's very fun. Go check that out. Glue Boy, go sub.
All right. As for me, actually, I might be making some videos. Not like a lot, and not for probably a good amount of time. But my mother's coming to town, and she is actually, over the course of this year, she'll be moving up to where we live, so that we will have a babysitter, and that will be really nice. And while she's here, at least for these next couple weeks, I think I want to make some videos. So I'll be making some videos. Yay! It's only been 4 months.
Hell yeah, though.
So be on the lookout for that. But with that, we'll go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Bye.